This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 571, recorded on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, 2023. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Spring has arrived. Maybe pre-summer? I don't know. It's been nice. The wind has been down. We've been on the deck. My voice is a little lower because I've probably been enjoying too many beverages and a few cigars out there. But, of course, we post a show with some world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. Don't forget, the episode affiliate sponsor is Nespresso, and appreciate you guys using that code. A bunch of you have. If you head out to Nespresso.com and use MQU328, you get $40 off your first machine, and they'll send you a little free capsule dispenser as well. Great way. If you're drinking bad coffee, just stop doing it. It's not worth it. You can easily make pretty good coffee. I shouldn't say pretty good. It's actually pretty great. I enjoy it. I know Brian said he likes it. Aaron said she likes it, and so a few of you have tried it as well. By the way, if you've tried it, you're new to it, shoot me an email, Jim@theaverageguy.tv. I'd love to hear if you've enjoyed it as much as well. Jay, what do you do? Are you a coffee guy, or what do you do for coffee?
I am not a coffee guy, sir. I do love the way it smells, but I do not like the way it tastes. So I've never been a coffee guy.
Too bitter for you?
No, it's just not my flavor profile there.
Okay.
So bourbon in the morning is good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they pour it out in the streets where you live, right? It's basically the water.
Yeah.
Everybody has
a spigot of your house. You get some bourbon. It's the bourbon spigot, babe.
Fresh water and then a bourbon spigot, right, on tap, right for you there. Where tell for folks who don't know where you live. Tell us where you reside.
Well, I am from Boston, but I am residing in northern Kentucky, right on the Cincinnati border. Yeah, my street actually dead ends on the Ohio River.
Oh, yeah. So you're super close to Cincinnati, super close to Ohio, but you're right in bourbon country.
I am, right in the heart of it. My office is smack dab in a triangle between Buffalo Trace, Woodford Reserve, and Jim Beam. I mean, I can see
really good.
Buffalo
really
Trace from my office.
Is it just available everywhere? It's such a hot commodity in the U.S. Everybody's always hunting down Buffalo Trace. Can you get it like at 7-Eleven or Quick Trip or whatever?
Anywhere you want. Any place that sells alcohol, you can get some Buffalo Trace.
What's your gas station? Everybody, you've got a Sitco, right? Is that a Sitco hat that you have on?
That's a Sitco hat, but it says Fenway because the Fenway has the Sitco sign that hangs over the park.
Right. But is there in Cincinnati? Is there we have Quick Trip here in the Midwest? Is there a
they have some, but they have the typicals. Nothing too fancy. It's more truck stops.
Okay, yeah.
So we get the Shell stations and the typical gas stations, but most of the stuff is the BPs and then you get the Love's truck stops and that type of stuff.
Oh, Love's has gotten big. Yeah, they've gotten big. Yeah. I didn't introduce him. Jay Franze is hanging out with us tonight. Franze and Friends. How's the podcast going? You were doing some new things the last time we chatted. How's that going?
We did, and it's going wonderful. It has put a whole new life back into things. What we've done is split the show into, rather than trying to cram everything into one show, we basically made 2 segments and turned them into 2 feeds.
Oh, good.
So we have the Jay Franze show is where I interview people, and I'm interviewing people in the entertainment industry, and we get stories and stuff of behind-the-scenes things that you would never find anyplace else. So I interview, and I had a comedian on last week, and that was a really good time. And he told me all about how he got his start and what it was like behind the scenes in that world. Yeah. But typically we have people in the music industry. That's where I've worked for 30 years. So nice. I had Reba McEntire's guitar player. One of the Oak Ridge Boys came on the other day. So we talked to them, and they just tell stories that we wouldn't normally hear. What it's like on the road, or how they do things before the curtain goes up. Okay. So it's that type of stuff. And then Franze and Friends is basically we call it a leadership show, but it's a leadership in the entertainment industry where we talk to people who work in the entertainment industry, and we offer up more of a educational show. We talk about how to do things behind the scenes and stuff.
Is that still you and Fola? Are you guys still doing that together?
It's myself and a girl named Jenny Wick.
Oh, okay.
Jenny Wick is I met her in Nashville. She was a producer, engineer in Nashville. She has now moved to the West Coast, and she is doing fitness stuff. She has a fitness show, and she's a fitness coach. Still does all the production stuff, but she's a fitness coach, and she also rides motorcycles. So she's got 3 YouTube channels, and she keeps up with them all. She's got more energy than one person needs. If
folks wanted to listen, where can they find both podcasts?
jayfranze.com.
Okay.
JayFranze.com.
Good to have you back tonight. Big thanks to our friend Mark Robson, who joined us last week. And Jay, you were in the chat room asking some questions of Mark. It's an important time of the year, right? Getting ready for grilling. And did you take away anything from that show? Was there anything you pulled out of that?
I asked the question. I am not the cook in the house. My wife definitely handles all of that, even the grilling. But she was complaining. We bought a new grill when we moved into this house. That was 2.5 years ago at this point. And the grill is very nice. But lately, every time she's turned it on, it's low flame, and she'll just be cooking something as normal, and all of a sudden the food catches on fire. And I asked about that on her behalf, and it seems like a very easy solution to fix. So I was telling her about it, and we're going to go ahead and try that on our next go-around with the grill.
Was it the tents?
Yes.
Good.
The metal tent and the build up under it.
Yep.
So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that and make sure it's all cleaned out, and we're going to let it burn for we're going to just turn it on and let it burn for a few, a few hours, but a good period of time before we
good half hour, get it hot. Yeah. Get something hot, burn some of that stuff off. I find sometimes when I'm cleaning it, it dislodges some stuff, and that'll cause some flare-ups. Look, I think a lot of folks just cook too hot, to be honest. And so if you can get the flame down. The other thing I've used is those, they have little rocks that are, they're like pressed concrete, but they're like dominoes is what they are. And I put those over my burner, and so the flames have to come up through the rocks first. Now you got to let it preheat a little bit because you got to get the rocks warm so that they're radiating the heat, but it kind of keeps the flare-ups down as well. And actually, in some cases, I've done both. I've put the rocks on the bottom, and then I've put those little tents on top to just kind of help dissipate some of the grease that comes off some of the meat.
I've never seen anything like
how it goes. Yeah.
Never seen the food catch on fire. Unless you're turning that flame up.
Right. Yeah. Well, you've never cooked bacon straight on the grill then, because that catches fire every time.
I have not.
It's pretty good. Well, the only reason we do it is because every Thanksgiving I cook turkeys and I bacon wrap them, and then my cast iron grates are dried out. 4, 5, 6 hours of smoking a turkey, those grates get dried out. So I take the bacon off and put it right on the grill, and it re-seasons the grill. But that thing catches fire every time because it's bacon. Like it's supposed to catch fire, right? So I have to be super careful with it. Well, I'm glad you pulled something from that, Mark. Thanks for joining us. I think he was talking on the show that he was looking at a couple Komodo or the insulated grills and I think he bought 2 already. So he after the show, he bought a few more. The ones he had were getting a little long in the tooth, and he bought a new one as well. So Mark, thanks for coming on. Always great to have you, and always reminding me that I need to grill a little bit more. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers as well. If you're a Patreon subscriber to this show, thank you. Thanks for doing that. We got one plan. It's $5, super easy. If you want to jump in on the team, that always helps. Like having your support. Some folks want to give back. Jay, for a lot of years, I didn't even offer an option to support the show. And I had some folks say, hey, I really want to give back. Can you just make a way to do it? And we did PayPal for a while, but Patreon was a super easy way to do it. You can do it for 1 month or forever, whatever you want to do. Check it out, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. Jay, tonight I want to talk a little bit about fire pits. You had a fire pit question, and 2 years ago I built a fire pit in my backyard, and I built it on a slope. And we kind of built it in the hill, and I thought that'd be all right. And then we started going out there and sitting. We take the chairs out there, and the slope was just enough that if you after you've maybe had a few and you raise your hand up to do something, you tip over. Your center of balance would be a little off. You tip over. Sammy did that, ran into me, and we ended up on the ground. It's not bad, but my wife said, it'd be kind of nice if we kind of leveled that out. So I've been spending some time over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks putting in landscaping timbers so then I can start leveling out that area. We'll move some dirt around and move it. Just get that level, some wood chips on it, some rock, and some of those kinds of things. Kind of gives me something to do. But you got some questions about fire pits, so I want to say you're thinking about this. Tell me a little bit about what you want and what you're trying to achieve with an outdoor fire pit, because they're super technical now. This is the crazy thing. Fire pits used to spend $100. You put wood in it, it burned. Now they're like $500, and they do all kinds of cool things. So tell me what you're looking for.
Well, that's good to know, because I would just go out and throw a bunch of rocks down and tell my wife, there we go.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, not my specialty. I'm from Boston. We don't do fire pits in our yards in Boston. But my wife being from the South, she's always had things like that. And I'm new here. We bought the house in Kentucky, and we're lucky. Our house backs up to one of those neighborhood lakes. It's not a big lake. It's just a neighborhood community lake.
Yeah.
But it's a nice, pretty view, and it'd be nice to sit out there. So we have a back deck and a back patio, similar to what you have. Our deck is up, a few chairs and our grill. And then the patio, we have a couple more chairs, and we have a fire pit, but it's one of those portable ones. And it's nice to have, but it's propane. Yeah. And for whatever reason, the propane we have, it does not get tucked under the fire pit. So it has to have a tube out, and so you can see the propane tank.
Yeah.
And it just gets in the way. My kids trip over the hose and all that stuff. But our backyard it's not that long from our house to the water. It's maybe 20 or so feet. But the yard goes out flat for the most part, but once you get towards the water, it does have a little bit of a slant to it, a little drop off. Not a big one, but enough, like you said, that you would notice it.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is put not just the stones on the ground. I would like to build up maybe 3 or 4 brick level stones up, nice typical circular pit, and build it into that slant. So kind of carve out a flat area into that slant, enough where we could have some Adirondack chairs and sit around it. Yeah. So there has to be enough room between the retaining wall that I guess we would need.
Right.
And the fire pit to have a chair and have enough room for your legs and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Do you have any, I looked for regulations from, Bellevue city regulations, like, hey, I'm putting a fire pit in my backyard. It needs to be a certain distance from things. Do you have any of that kind of, have you looked? Do you have any kind of regulations or anything?
I don't know. I have not looked, but it is Kentucky. And every one of my neighbors seems to have some sort of fire pit in their backyard.
Yeah.
And one of the neighbors across the water, they have the literal just big stones in a circle, and they just throw wood in the middle of it. So nothing fancy. But my neighbor right next door to me makes us look bad because he's got the real nice one. So he's like, you can come over and use it whenever you want. I'm like, that's great.
I want to do it on my property.
I want one of my own.
Right. Do you have access to, like, when you're talking about the slope, do you have access to how much dirt are you removing? If you're gonna there's 2 ways to do this, right? One would be remove dirt. The other would be build a retaining wall and fill it in, right? So you're trucking dirt in, or you're trucking, something in to kind of fill in that space. Do you have access to any of that kind of equipment or anything to make that a little bit easier? Okay.
No. Okay. I'm sure my neighbors have things that we could use.
Yeah.
However, what I'm looking to do is remove dirt
Okay.
And we're not talking a lot. We're talking maybe a foot. So
Okay.
I'm
That's
sure
still,
I could go out there with a shovel if I needed to.
well, it's surprising how I've been out digging in my, I'm doing what you're talking about right now. And, half an hour of digging, you're like, man, I'm glad I'm not a ditch digger.
Right.
That's, my parents always told me, if you don't get good grades, you're going to dig
Right.
ditches the rest of your life. Right. And I was like, whatever, it can't be that hard. It's hard. It's hard. We've been putting footers in. We're removing dirt. That's what I decided to do too. And well, some build up, some removal, and we've been putting footers in. So I've been digging a little bit. It's a good workout. It's one of those kinds of things where you're like, well, okay, I can, moving a shovel around is a little bit of work, but pace yourself in that. Okay. So, I built my fire pit first, and I think my advice to you would be build the platform first. So go in and kind of determine. And one of the things I kind of figured out, or what we did here, was I built it into the grass, and then we kind of used it for a couple of years, and I wanted to see how much grass did I kill. Like, so that would tell me, like, how wide do I need to have this thing to really make it? And we put in a 3-foot fire pit. We bought one of those 3-foot, like, horse watering, you throw that thing down. It's 3 foot in diameter. That's a little wide for you can buy these kits. Like, you could go to your big box store and buy a kit that's got the stone and the circle. 3 foot's a little big. How big do you want this thing to be, do you think?
I didn't think about it, but I'm going to guess it probably would be about 3 foot. You say it's a little big, so I'm assuming that means they're smaller.
Well, yeah, 24, so 36, 24.
My yard's not that
30.
big.
Okay. Well, the question I'd have for you is, what's your access to wood? Like, do you have really good, do you have wood to spare? Are you having to buy it?
No, I'd be buying it.
Okay. So, smaller is better, right? Because if you're just looking for the ambiance of a fire pit, right? You go 3 foot, I found, man, I burn a lot of wood. That's a lot of space to kind of keep the flame going. A 30 or a 24-inch ring is you're probably better off, right? Getting that, getting a little bit smaller of a ring, less rock, less dirt to move. And then I found keeping about 7 to 8 feet around the outside of the pit is kind of a nice, you can, if the fire gets really hot, you can kind of move back from it. If it's not hot enough, you can kind of move up to it.
So you said 7 or 8 feet?
Yeah, 7 to 8 feet is kind of the nice thing about that is that if you're using landscaping timber or anything to go around it, generally those come in 8-foot increments. So you're using full length, you're using a full length timber or whatever. Pretty easy. Again, I kind of wanted to see how much space we're using. Think about a chair you're taking out there.
Right.
It takes up three, about 3 or 4 feet of space with you in it, right?
I pulled up pictures. Adirondack chairs are large. And then, considering whatever the fire pit size is, say the 3 foot or a little smaller, then the chairs, you probably would need about 8 feet around it. And I'm envisioning the neighbor's one right now, and I can't imagine that being more than 3 feet. I don't think they have more than, I think they sit on the retaining wall.
Okay. Well, yeah. And that is another, I'm building in some benches to the hillside of my retaining wall so that, I got to have the retaining wall there anyways. So I'm going to build that up and put some benches on it. But those are 7.5, 8 feet away from that way you can sit out there if you want to. We can bring chairs in and get closer to it if you want to. So some things to consider. The big box stores, Lowe's, Home Depot, they almost always have Menards in our area.
Yeah, we have.
They almost always have. Do you guys have Menards there? Yeah. They have kits often that you can buy that come with all the block and in a ring. Now, one of the things I liked about I bought a 3 foot diameter by, I don't know how high that is, whatever this is, 18 inches, 24 inches. It's something high. So this is where the technology comes in. When I was putting this thing together, so I cleared out a spot, and then I actually did this thing where you lay concrete dry. I don't know if you've ever done that before. I put the concrete down. So I got 2 bags of concrete, put them inside the ring. So poured them in, leveled it out. And then I just sprayed water on it. A lot of folks want to put the concrete in the wheelbarrow, and then you got to churn it and churn it and churn it, and then pour it out, and then make a flat surface. No, it's a lot easier. Just take that concrete, put it on the ground in a form, dry, then just gently start spraying water over it until it's soaked. You're not putting a shed on this thing. You're not putting you're putting a fire pit on this thing. And I did want a firm base on the bottom of my fire pit, right? I wanted that. So I don't know exactly what they call that, but I call it like dry laying concrete. Put it down first, then just gently water it until it's completely wet, and then it'll firm up nicely for you. It saves you the hassle of having to, dig, turn that concrete over. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and then go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm just trying to think this through. So you're talking about if you've got the, say, 8 feet, and then plus the 2 to 3 feet, you're looking at up to 11 feet in diameter.
Yeah. So, well, actually, I'm talking about 8 feet from the fire pit out. So it's actually 16 or more, a 20-foot diameter, right? The concrete,
my entire yard.
Well, okay, but you have to decide. Like, you have to kind of think. Like, again, that you're going to take up that space if you build this pit, and then it's there's not enough space to sit around it.
Right.
So this is Jay. Honestly, this is why I built the pit first. I wanted to see how we'd use it. Right. Now, when we use it, the whole family is out there. I need to have a pretty wide. Yeah. The other thing I did, instead of doing a square around the fire pit, I did an octagon, so that you're kind of bringing in the sides. So instead of it going all the way out square, that's a lot of area. I kind of, not a circle, but an octagon around the fire pit to kind of save a little bit of space. So that might be something you might want to think about as well.
I'm just trying to picture the ones that are around me. Like my neighbor that's literally right next door to me, they have a boat dock on one side of theirs, and then they have the fire pit, which is, they've got a bench on the side that's where the water is. So you literally just have a bench, and then it goes to water. And then on the side that's closest to their house is just maybe a half a foot or a foot retaining wall. Yep. And it just does a semicircle. But the semicircle probably only leaves a foot and a half from that wall to the fire pit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to, this is one of those things, like the way you use it kind of dictates what you want, how much space you have, right?
I like your idea. I want more space.
Yeah.
I want to be able to have the chairs and have room,
Yes. Yeah.
Be out there and have a glass of bourbon when you come by and visit. And then when you're not here, my kids can be out there with s'mores.
No, right on. That's kind of what we wanted too. I would, this is one of those areas where a little bit of mocking up and a little bit of planning, you could kind of mock up some spaces, say, hey, here's how big my fire pit's going to be. I'm going to lay out, I bought, $3 string and some $5 nails, and started like putting a mock-up of it around it to be like, okay, does this seem kind of right? And if you're listening to this and you're wondering, like, where's the home gadget in this gadgetry? Hang tight. I got some home gadgetry stuff coming. You gotta get the base there first, right? You got to get this fire pit in there. So you got to kind of figure out, I think, mock it up a little bit. And you also kind of need to decide, I think, and this is where, as you're thinking about your fire pit, it doesn't necessarily need to be a permanent one, right? You could go with a, you could just go with some in a 24 by 24 block. You could go with a standard $150 fire pit that you buy at any big box store. You just throw the wood in, right? You could go fancy. You could do the same thing and get a solo stove, right? Or get any of those solo stove knockoffs where it sits out there when you're not using it. You put the cover over the top of it and you're not into any infrastructure. You can still level the place out, right? To get it level the way you want it. But it doesn't mean you have to build a rock fire pit to get it done, right? The nice thing about that, one, those solo stoves are super efficient. They're a little expensive, but they're super efficient. They get you great heat, and there's a lot of options with them, right? Recently they've started selling these tops for them where you put this, it's like, think of it like a giant plate. You just put it on top of that and it reflects the heat kind of out to you. So instead of all that heat going up into the air, comes out to goes up, comes out, right? So yeah, you can kind of feel a little bit of it. So there's kind of advantage in the solo space too. Those you get a little more efficiency in those. I'll talk in a second here of how I built my in-ground one to be like a solo stove. But you could go, that route. There's solo or the knockoffs. I've written some articles about solo stoves at theaverageguy.tv, but you could go that route as well. And then the nice thing is it's nice and it's not nice. Every couple of years you replace it. In some regards, right, that gives you a chance to try things new. In others, you're like, I don't know if I want to drop $300 or $400 every couple of years because they say they last, but if you leave them out there,
right, they weather.
Right. Yeah, they do. They weather pretty. So I think that's another decision to make is, once you got the area cleared out and you got it flat, do you want to build something in or do you just want to put a pad down, and throw a solo stove or whatever on top of it? I know what are you thinking as I present those to you? What are your thoughts?
I like the idea of having the built-in stone one. I want it to look like it was built in to be part of the landscaping, part of the house. Yeah. The permanent fixture.
Okay. So that's actually easy. It's easier than you think, right? Again, you can buy one of these kits. These stores buy kits, or the landscaping blocks that you buy, those concrete blocks that you buy, they naturally make a circle. So if you're they just that's what they're kind of designed for, right? So what I like about a metal insert, whether it's 24 or 30 or 36 inches, this metal insert that goes in, what I like about that is it gives you some solo stove options. So you put that down first on your platform, however you decide to do that. I did mine stone concrete. I did mine with concrete. Then actually, once it dried, I punched some holes through it so water could, it wouldn't become a swimming pool, right? I just took my drill and right. And we're only talking about an inch to an inch and a half. This isn't a 4-inch concrete slab. This is just enough concrete to get kind of a base that's firm. And then the solo stove concept is this: you have air coming in from the bottom and air coming in from the top. It's really not that hard. When you put the concrete blocks around it, you just leave a little space so air can come in through those blocks. As that fire heats up, superheats the air that's coming up the sides, comes up in over the top. There's 1,000 videos on this on how that works. I just punched some holes in the bottom of that metal piece that I bought, and then it kind of creates that solo stove concept where it gets super efficient. Now, again, mine's 36 inches, takes a lot of wood. So think about your size, the size on that. But the concrete block, the only thing that you need to think about is when you're gluing those blocks together, just get some glue that's heat rated, right? It's going to get a little warm on the other side. See, not very hard.
What I was thinking, and tell me if I'm anywhere close, I was going to find the size of the area I want in the yard. I was going to make it flat and level it out. And if there is going to be a little bit of a lip, it might be half a foot to a foot that I might have to just put a little bit of brick or stone around it just for cosmetics.
Yep.
So I'll have the flat area, and then I was going to flatten it down to the dirt. Then I was going to put a layer of sand down
Could. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Then I was going to go ahead and put the metal piece you're referring to, and then put the stone around the metal piece. And then if my wife wanted for the cosmetics of it again, then put the stone on the sand and build that as our platform.
Yep. Yeah. So use concrete instead of sand. So put it down, like treat it like you would sand. Get a just a regular, quick dry, whatever.
Right.
You use for fence posts, some of those kinds of things. Because the difference is that sand is going to shift over time. But with that, if you put concrete down first to hold those, and then put the blocks in and then spray it down with water, all that stuff will lock in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It actually works out pretty well. Depending on how thick you make it, and it will depending on how long it'll last. But that sand, I'm not a big fan of it.
Well,
I'm just not a big fan.
The fire pits that I've seen, and I've not seen a lot, but I've seen enough. The sand and the stone over it look like the fancier ones.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of concrete being a more permanent fixture.
Yep.
But a lot of people are just, digging out the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting rock around it and calling it a pit.
Yeah. No, you could do that too. You can get as fancy or as simple with this thing as you want, right? I knew that I wanted a hard surface underneath it. I've laid enough of those concrete blocks to know that they sit nicely if you can get them in a bed of concrete. And then sometimes I've mixed the concrete in advance. Sometimes I've just put the concrete in and when I'm done, sprayed it down and it locks it in. It's kind of a nice way. The nice way about laying those bricks dry is you can tap them down, get them all nice and straight, get that first layer down the way you like it. Then you just take a misting, take your hose, just mist it down for,
you're making me
half
think.
an hour. Oh.
So what about the idea of the built-in bench style seating versus chairs or the half and half?
Yeah, I'm going to do both. So the hillside is going to have bench seats that if you're just out there and you just want to sit on them, that's fine. But it's going to be wide enough that I can bring chairs in if I want to as well.
So that would be huge.
It's it's 8 feet. 8 feet down. I mean, it's 8 feet from the fire pit. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty good size.
See, if I was thinking like that, I would think that you would have the built-in seating as a horseshoe or on the one side, say the house side, and then leave it open on the water side and have a couple Adirondack chairs out there.
Yep, you could do it that way too. You could mix and match. It depends on it totally depends on what you want, what you're looking for. There's no right way. The right way is the way you want to do it, right? But yeah, that would lend itself some built-in seating on the hillside. Built-in seating on one side, chairs on the other. You get the best of both worlds then at that point. One of the things you want to think about, though, from a tech perspective, right, on this, do you want power out there?
I wasn't thinking about it, but now that you're mentioning it, I could probably see the benefit of having it.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes, I mean, lighting in particular. What else do you think? I always think of putting some low voltage power or even Christmas lights. Those right. You can plug those in super cheap to be able to get that kind of stuff. But it's a consideration. The other consideration is a little bit of solar. So you're in a part of the country, it doesn't freeze as much as it does here. You could have a battery that runs these lights, right? That's out there in a little solar panel. And so instead of having to run wires.
Let me tell you what we have out there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have the patio, out sliding door. You have a patio, maybe 10 by 10, 12 by 12. And then directly above it, we have the deck. Mm-hmm. So you come out a slider on the top level and you get a deck. So if you're on the patio, along the bottom, you have those Edison style bulbs that hang down. Mm-hmm. On the top, along the railing, are more of what your Christmas style that you're talking about, but they're LEDs.
Right.
Then they go around the banner. They kind of swirl around the banner. And then we also have a wall, just a decorative wall to kind of separate from the utilities type stuff. And that has the growth, leaves growing up it, whatever that, I don't know exactly what kind of leaves are on it, but it's growth. And my wife has got lights in there that trickle down throughout, and those are solar. So the Edison bulbs and the LEDs plug in, and the lights and the leaves are solar.
Yeah. So you could, I mean, just a decision to make on like, do I want to put a little solar panel out by the fire pit that runs the lights out here? Or do I want to run do I want to snake in? Because this is something you want to put in before you build all this stuff, right? You want to like, hey, where's the power? I'm going to run some conduit. I'm going to bring it up in a certain spot, and that's going to be where the lights are going to generate from. And then, maybe even a switch on them so you can turn those on and off as you go. The other thing to think about, Jay, on this is, and these have gotten super popular over the last couple of years, it's just those individual lights that you just put in the ground. They got a solar panel on the top. I've only found they last a couple years, right? I've only found those last a couple years. But that's another way of getting easy lighting around, kind of around this thing to make it work. So if you're going to run cable or wire, that's the decision you want to make early, because you want to run that conduit before you want to have that in and up. Yeah, before you do too much work.
No, it's in an area which that would make sense in my house because it's on the side of the power, and we could do that. And then I think to myself too, are we overthinking that? The whole point of having the pit is to go out there with a beer and not have,
but
power other than lights. I'll say the lights would be nice ambiance.
They are nice.
I could picture my kids wanting to plug in the iPad, and next thing you know, we're out there and we got technology going.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
It's not bad if I'm by myself. I'll tell you.
Bad.
A side note, you want to take a tangent real quick. I went outside the other day. I forget what. My kid needed something. It was during the day, and I work from home most of the time. So I went out to the patio, and my wife was walking with the kid outside, and then they left. I'm like, I'm just going to stay here. I just got my laptop, and I stayed on the patio and sat there and worked for the rest of the day. Yeah. I was like, this is awesome. I'll just do this. Like you said, the weather's been beautiful. So
yeah. No, it's in the spring. This is when you start thinking about like, and then the bugs come out, right? In a couple weeks.
And then the heat.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thought about running power. And I didn't realize this till I started doing this on my deck, but I bought this TV for the deck. And if you do your seating right, you could have a TV mount. You don't keep the TV out there full time. Right. It's just a TV mount. And so you run power out to it. And can your Wi-Fi reach that far out there into the fire pit, do you think?
I would say yes.
Okay.
For sure.
So it's it's $150 to get a 32-inch TV out there that you can just bring out to the fire pit. You want to get it far enough away. It's heat and some of those kinds of things. But how nice is that to have the TV on, sports, whatever you enjoy.
Well, I could picture that. That's what I was thinking when you first mentioned power. I was like, oh, there's that TV idea.
Yeah.
Because I can think of multiple purposes, right? So you sit in there, you got chairs facing the water, so you get your fire pit. On the other side of the fire pit, like on the water side, you could have a pole, a mount, and put the TV on it. And like you said, you watch a game or you do something like that out there. You can watch my Bruins disappoint me, make me cry. But yeah, so you can sit out there and watch a bad game. And then my kids, if they have their friends over or sleep over or whatever, you just put a movie up there for them.
Right.
So they can be out there with s'mores and a movie.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's surprisingly easy now to get a TV out there. They're light. You buy a mount.
I really like that idea, Jim.
Yeah, you buy a universal mount. They're all the same, and they're cheap on Amazon. And this is what I did. I put a mount on the deck. It just stays out there. My TV doubles as my treadmill TV. So when I'm rarely on the deck and on the treadmill at the same time. So like,
I'm really on the treadmill.
That's true as well. But that's where it sits. Same mount. I can just lift it off one. I don't permanently mount. I just lift it off one, take it out to the deck, put it on. Plug. There's a plug right there that I mounted. Plug it right in. It's Wi-Fi enabled. It picks up, whatever I have. I use channels, and I can watch, football on the weekends or whatever. One of the other considerations to think too, if you're going to run power out there, is speakers. Right. You might want to think through, and you got a couple options. You could, there's a lot of great outdoor speakers, or you can pick up a pair of Bluetooth enabled, Bose or whatever, fill in the blank. That would give you, so either you're taking it out there with you each time, because the TV speaker is not going to be good enough. And sometimes you want music, or you're carrying it out with you each time. So that's I think that's kind of a decision you have to make. Many people take out, I have that little Bose, I forget the model on that thing that works out pretty well. That's what we have. That's another consideration, right?
Yeah, I definitely have the Bluetooth speakers already. So that's good. And they're really nice ones. They're definitely powerful enough to fill it up outside. But yeah, no, I'm really liking the idea of the TV and the mount.
Yeah.
And if you've got the concrete or that you're talking about, the cements, you can fix a mount right in it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. I wouldn't. I like to use the concrete around the fire pit only. I don't try to make it the whole platform. The rest of the platform I use just for the concrete is really for the fire pit, the base of the fire pit, and
3 foot diameter pit.
Yeah. What you may want to think about, and this has been kind of cool, is to put a pole up, and they now have, a lot of people would just dig a hole, put a post in it, put concrete in it, but they got some really cool foam options now for $10, $12. You could pick up a foam, you break it, you rub it over your leg to mix it up, you pour it in. I actually did the front yard this way with our a railing that goes down, and I actually liked it better than the concrete. You know why I like it? Because you can cut it off at the ground level, because it comes up.
Right.
You can cut it off at the ground level, or cut it below the ground level, throw a little bit of dirt on top of it and never even see it.
I like that idea too.
Yeah. And it's ready. It's ready in like an hour.
I was just thinking about like putting in a new mailbox or something. You could just use something like that. Yeah, that's cool. Super cool tech that allows you to, and it, regardless of the hole that concrete's heavy, right? And if I have to mix it, now you can do the post thing with the concrete too, where you just pour it in, put water in, it does just fine, right? You can do it that way as well. But you think about your seating then, and you're thinking, okay, I need to think about where I'm going to run power. Probably want to bring power up where the TV is going to be. And then I want the TV to be in the optimal place for where maybe we have the chairs, or maybe where you have the other seating or whatever. Right. But think through that in advance. Because that's the first thing you run is the power out there, and then start moving stuff around. I think that would be an easy decision, because the water is the view, it's the focal point. Mm-hmm. And the mount for the TV would go right in that smack dab where the water is. So you never change your focal point. You're either out there to sit around and look at water, or you're out there to watch a game.
Yeah.
I think that
one of the
perfect
things
sense.
One of the things I might do is mock that up as well. Get an extension cord, plug it into the deck or wherever. Bring a TV out there. Mock it up in some places at the time of the day you think you're going to be out there, and say, okay, is this, because you never know, like, am I going to get a glare off this? Is it going to block that? Is this really going to work in the play? It'll look silly. Trust me, it'll look silly, but kind of mock it up first. Yeah. Well, you're just trying it for a night or two or an afternoon or whatever. I put mine, first I started thinking about it. It was in a sunny spot. And during the afternoon when I want to watch football, I couldn't see the TV. And so I needed it to be in a shady spot. Now, the TVs are still pretty bright, but I wanted it to be in a shadier spot so I could see it better.
I think if I was looking at the water, the sun comes up and down on the two sides. So it would be on the side of the TV.
Yeah, well, again, it's something, just try it before you kind of make a decision on, like, because you don't, the reflection coming off the water, or is there, whatever, right? I don't know your conditions, but be good to try.
Canopy. We've got everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned a canopy. I just saw Menards was running a sale on a 10 by 10 canopy that you can set up pretty easily, bolt down to the deck, and it could be a cover for it. Realistically, are you going to be out there when it's raining? I don't know. Are you? Yeah. Of course, you got a fire going, so you have to account for that, right? Kind of deal. But
you might get the occasional snowfall where that might be nice, but
yeah. Well, then just put a jacket on. But I do like the TV option. I don't know. We got a few folks in chat tonight. What other tech gadgets would you guys be thinking of if we think about out on the deck, some of those kinds of things that might benefit as we think from a technology perspective? Jay, throw those in chat. We'll bring them in here in just a second.
Yeah, please give me as many ideas as you can, because this is going to be a pretty hefty project. But for me, it's going to be a pretty hefty project. But I want to knock it out at the beginning of the season here. Right.
Yeah, and you've got it. Listen, the moving the dirt is probably the hardest part. After that, everything goes pretty fast. I mean, once I dug my fire pit in, got the base down, the rest of it's, you're done in an hour or two. And so it goes pretty fast. One of the other things I would consider on this, do you have a camera in your backyard that is watching over that area, or no?
No.
Okay. I have a camera. I have a camera on my back deck. One of the things I didn't realize is just how many alerts I'm going to get while I was out there. So, kids coming in and out, you're out on the deck all the time. Just a consideration for that. Brian says outdoor lighting, string lights connected to a smart outdoor outlet. Okay, Brian, great suggestion. Jay, one of the things I've done for the shed, so I ran power out to the shed, but I don't want it running all the time. They do make really cool now, an Energizer, the battery company, actually makes this Wi-Fi enabled outdoor plug. So you can, as you're thinking about, okay, how do I want to power this thing? Do I want it to be on a switch? Now, for me, when I'm in the shed, I want to be able to turn that power on and off from my phone. Like, I can literally just in the shed, turn it on, turn it off from my phone. That's a nice, it's a nice feature to be able to control that. You might want to think through, like, as I'm powering this, do I want a physical switch? Do I want it to be smart? If it's going to be smart, it's going to be outside. You'll have a little extra expense on that. I don't know. Any thoughts around that?
Well, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it. Everything I would need would be on that side of the house. So I think I'm in good shape there. And I think if I run a conduit out to that area, like you said, ahead of time, I think I'd be in good shape as well. And I like the idea of being able to flick on the lights from inside the house. Okay. So if my wife's in the kitchen or if we're down in that area, just hit the switch, lights are on outside. But I do also like the idea of putting them on some sort of smart outlet where you can do it from your phone too. So if you are out at the pit, it gets dark and you forgot, you don't have the lights on yet, or maybe even a timer.
Yeah, a timer with a smart switch. Alex says, do a smart switch relay in an outdoor enclosure. You can get a big, big plastic enclosure for power, and then your smart switches in there. One of the nice things about that, are you a Google or Amazon voice
yes, we
family at all?
One of each.
Okay.
But the biggest one in the house is the Amazon one.
Yeah. So if you went with a smart switch, instead of having to wire a switch in the house or figure that out, the fire pit could be voice enabled. Hey, lady, turn on the fire pit, right? Turn off the fire pit, right? I mean, that's pretty cool.
Funny. Right? I never thought having a fire pit would have so many decisions to have.
Well, I mean, listen, you can throw some rocks on the ground and throw some wood in there and fire it up. You can do that. You don't have to.
I want it to look nice because
right.
Yeah, I want it to be part of the property. I mean, we bought the house and we went through the effort of trying to find a nice house. I want it to be a nice area. I've been looking for pictures here. I think I found something similar to what I want.
Okay, share that. Go ahead and share that on the screen, and we'll. Audio folks, sorry about that. You can check us out at youtube.com/Jim Collison. I think we'll get you to the video on this one if you want. But
the big image there that's selected is kind of what I was thinking about. But instead of having those big tiles as the ground, it would be sand and then kind of like a brick tile.
Yeah, you could do that. That would see, to me, this, like, if you're, we're looking at the picture all the way to the right, the permanent seating on the right side is a little close for me. Like, you get a fire going, again, this is where you almost want to, I know I told you not to do this, but you almost want to build the pit first. So you get a feel of, like, how does this thing heat up? How am I going to use this thing? What's it going to look like? And then put the landscaping in around it once you know the kind of how it acts, right?
I can't imagine anybody sitting on that permanent seating for a long period of time.
It seems a little close, doesn't it?
It seems close and it seems hard and there's nothing to lean back on.
Right.
So, if you think about it, where those chairs are, which would be the water side.
Right.
Which would then be where the TV would be. So you'd have to have some room for chairs.
Yeah. You see, you're working through the use case scenario, which is why I like using it first and then building around the use case, right? Of, like, here's how this is really going to work for me. In the picture that we're looking at, the seating is really a fence. It's not you could sit on it. In some cases, it would make for good, hey, you're having a party. People they're kind of moving around. They're not sitting there for long lengths of time.
To put a drink.
Yeah.
A table.
Yeah. No, right on. But you definitely, I like the size of that fire pit, right? It's probably 24-inch, I would imagine, maybe a 30.
This is the type of stone I was thinking about using.
Yep. And that's super easy. It's like Legos, I like to glue those things together. I don't like to just use the gravity on them. I like to glue them, and you need to get a kind of a heat rated glue to get it done. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just get one that can withstand some heats on that, and then you can kind of glue them together. They stick. But one of the things, Jay, is we're looking at this fire pit here, and if you got a metal ring on the inside, then you just need to make sure you're given an inch or two of space between the block and the metal so that air can kind of come up. And then I put an additional lip on the top of it that went up over the metal ring on the inside to kind of create that airflow. So you get that secondary burn on it in there. But that is certainly a good way, those kinds of bricks. I just would like a metal insert. You could do it this way where it's just brick. I like a metal insert.
I definitely want the metal insert.
Yeah. And not one of those. They have these metal inserts that just go across the top and they only go down about an inch. No, I'm talking like a full metal insert into it.
No, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's what I prefer.
Don't mean to make anybody dizzy here, but
I
think at the top of this nose.
Joe. Yeah, feed bins. The round horse, you would put them out and throw feed in them, and the horses, yes, those kinds of things.
You know what? And being in Kentucky, that shouldn't be hard to come by.
Should not be. No, you should be. Joe says there's a cool trend now where they build outdoor patios based off those old feed bins and silos. Yeah, that's what I really want to do. Yeah, That's what I'm talking about. That one that you're showing right now, I don't know if that metal, I think that's just a metal ring around the top.
That one doesn't look like the right one, but
yeah. Fire pits are big business right now. There's a lot of options for folks in there, and a lot of decisions. Yeah, again, you got to kind of think through, like, do I want to build a fire pit first and see how it performs, and then build the stuff around it? Because some of that stuff's pretty permanent,
Well, I guess the biggest question is the electricity part, because that has to be decided up front.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'd mock it up a little bit and try some things. Your neighbors will think you're crazy, but mock it up a little. When I was putting the landscaping in, it's even mine too. When I was putting the landscaping, put the fire pit first, and then I was using string to kind of mock up where I thought the retaining walls would be. It made a little pentagram. My kids came over and like, Dad, are you? What's going on out there?
You need to talk.
What's going on out there? Are you sacrificing things? And I was like, no, it's just because it's an octagon and that's the way it looks. So just chill
goat.
Out. Just chickens. But it gave me a good feel for the other thing that mocking it up with string will do for you is give you some sight lines. So stand at the back door. So, run some string lines out of what you think it'll look like, and then go to the back door and say, how does this look from here? Does it look straight? Is it in the right place? Is it centered on the things it should be centered on, so to speak, right? Is it taking advantage of natural pathways? Right. I think those are all questions you want to ask yourself of, how are people going to get out to this thing? How are they going to walk out there? Is it going to be, for the last 2 years, it's been in grass. And, after a rainstorm, you don't really want to be out in the grass, even though it might be a nice day. It's wet. The chairs sink into the grass, right? Kind of thing. Certainly we wore a path we didn't take the railing off the deck. I'm actually taking railing off the deck, and then I'm going to build some stairs down into mine. So the natural path will be come out the door, walk down the deck, walk off the steps, go in. You're in wood chips, right? You're not walking on grass. You don't have to worry about muddy shoes and some of those kinds of things. So that mock-up will give you an opportunity to look at it for a while. And for me, I mocked it up for a week, and every day I looked at it like, okay, am I sure this is what I wanted to do?
Well, I think you made a really good point about size, and I didn't think about that. That with our yard, it's a good sized yard, but it's not huge, because we back up to the water, we get half the yard that everybody else does. And it's nice because of the water, but it's also, like I said, we lose the size of the yard. So I think if I put a slightly smaller one in there, that would be a better option, and it would give more room for chairs. And then I did think about the pathway like you're talking about, and if we put some sort of rockway, or you could put the stones, I mean, there's some options there.
Yeah,
that might work out. But
yeah,
I like the idea of the TV, having the electricity, having a TV out there.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Well, it's better than sitting inside to watch a game, right?
Yeah, well, it gives you another option, right? Yeah. And it also doesn't mean you have to have the fire pit on,
right?
Well,
that's what I was
have
thinking.
To be. Yeah,
just, if you're outside watching the game, you just get a place to watch it.
Right. Yeah, you get a good.
My wife's gonna hate you.
It's not. It's not that much more expensive to throw a TV out there. They're pretty.
No,
they're pretty inexpensive, and they're light, and you just carry. When you don't want it, like, it doesn't have to. It's not going to live out there. So when you're done in the evenings, whatever, you pick it up, unplug it, pick it up, take it in, set it in the garage,
bring it
or
back
whatever.
to the kids' room.
Exactly. Yeah,
Use
exactly.
their TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope that gives you some ideas. I know that's maybe a little different format for Home Gadget Geeks, but you're doing that. You're thinking about it. I had just done that, and I've been kind of thinking through all the tech stuff that I needed to really make that. I mean, you can add just a little bit of tech to that thing. One of the cool things, just to think about this, is Bose has got these speakers that look like rocks, and they're
Right.
designed to be outside all the time, and they're Bluetooth enabled. And so rather having to figure out, I got to go grab this
My
speaker
wife
and
would
bring it
much
out here.
rather have that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are,
I mean,
those are
as
options
easy as
too.
possible for her. She's not going to carry out
Right.
speakers.
Right.
She'll just want to go out there and sit.
Yeah. The more stuff you got to take out the less you'll use it. The more it's available, like I'm just going to go out and connect to this thing. If you're already running power, there could be some options for you. And then I don't underestimate the lighting on this thing. Just mood lighting, right? Of just marking out the paths or marking out the perimeter of it adds so much to just the ambiance of being out there.
I think that's what we'd have to do. Like you were saying, either run a line or those ones with the solar tops to go along the pathways or to go around the thing. But there'd be nothing of height. You wouldn't be able to have any lights unless you put a pole, but you wouldn't have any lights in the air. They'd all have to be on the ground.
Right.
But I like the idea of the stones, the Bluetooth stones, the Bose stones.
Little Bose. And there's off brands. Yeah, no, they're just out there. They're available.
Right.
They're rated for weather.
And it would look better than carrying a Bluetooth brick outside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of those things. Like, do you want to? I mean, some people do. I've got one that I use. I think it's charging over on the other side, but we put it on the deck. I'll connect it to the TV. I'll take it to the shed. There's multiple spots where I want to move that thing around to, so that works well for me. But and again, it's your decision.
But we have one if we want to do that. Yeah. But like for me, right now, the only time I ever sit on the patio at all, I'll force myself to do it. And I'll go out there and I'll sit and I'll put my earbuds in, I'll listen to a podcast or something and just sit there. And I enjoy it. But if there's a fire pit out there with the stones that already have the Bluetooth speakers, and I'm already in my backyard, I don't have to go in and grab something.
Right.
Just sit down, put my phone on, enjoy a few minutes outside, take a work call or whatever I want to do. And I think that's a really good opportunity. Especially working from home, having options of different places to sit. Especially this summer when the kids are out of school. I'm lucky enough to have an office that I'm sitting in here. So I'm lucky enough to have that, so I'm away from the family. But having another place like the fire pit area or the patio, they're just different options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of gives you that. Brian says you guys are giving me some good ideas for my patio. Yeah. I think this is where these little tech things can add so much value. I mean, when I bought that Energizer, I bought it at Menards. It was $15. It may have been 10, and it's just plugs in, and then it's got 2 power outlets on it. And it's just Wi-Fi enabled, and I can be in the shed and turn the power on and off. I just run an extension cord out to the shed, and it's convenient. Like, it makes it. I use it more because it's more convenient. And then Alex says you can hook the outdoor speakers to an amp that's connected to an AirPlay or Chromecast audio, and then you can stream to them as well. So your TV, you can also have your TV come out of those.
I like that.
Speakers. Yeah, that makes for a handy. Listen, when we're on the deck and I'm enjoying a bourbon and we got a cigar and we got a little Cuban music playing out of the speakers, it takes you to another place.
And it's important to me to have the fire pit because I want wood. Right now we've got propane. It's not the same.
Yeah.
You have the fire, you have the ambiance and stuff. It's nice, but I want the smell of the wood and all.
Yeah. Well, so one more thing to think about on this, and it's not what you think it is, but wood storage then has to be a consideration. Where are you going to stack this stuff? Like, and you don't want it too far from the fire pit, because you don't want to have to walk to the other side of the house, the other side of the yard. How are you going to do this, right? And there's some options where you could have a really nice metal, like a wood storage unit that you just keep that stocked all the time, and that'll be like one fire basically, and you just fill that up and you keep the other wood on the other side of the yard, or whatever, right? However you do that. That's one way of doing it. Or making sure that the path to the wood is convenient, right? If it's gonna be in some place, make sure that there's no obstructions between. It's gonna be dark in some cases, right? You don't want to be going into the dark to get wood, right?
Well, I've seen those that look kind of like a bookshelf. They're black wrought iron, look like a bookshelf. You stack up. So I've seen those that you could just put next to the pit. But I don't want it to take up any of the, unless it looks nice. It might look nice and be part of it. Or maybe even build something into that retaining wall that has storage in it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you could. Well, I never thought of that. That'd be a cool little underneath underneath the bench would be some storage for wood.
Right. Maybe on the two ends of the horseshoe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
now
that.
You're thinking.
So
now
maybe
you're thinking.
You got enough to have one fire on each end. So you got two out there.
Yeah. And then you just refill them as you.
Right. And up at the back side of the house, there's plenty of room to put one of those metal boxes where you can store some wood.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Well, one of the things to think about, though.
I haven't been thinking about.
Yeah. Wherever you're keeping your wood, make sure it's got a light that you either have easy access to find, or comes on when you go out there to get it. Because there's nothing worse than, it's late. You've had a few bourbons. You're trying to get more wood. You're stumbling around. You can't see anything. You jam your hand to get some wood, and you come out with a handful of splinters, right? So like, trust me, you make sure that area is well lit, and it comes on. This is where it comes on when you show up. You don't want that light on all the time, but when you show up in that space, you want that light to come on so you can easily get to the wood. Safety.
I'm trying to envision it. And my patio has that little leaf partition thing that blocks off the utilities.
Yeah.
But in that utility area is plenty of room to put some sort of wood storage. And it's all covered, so it wouldn't be an eyesore of any sort.
Good. Yep. So. Joe makes a good point. Depending upon what part of your country, and you're in this part of the country, spiders, right?
Yep.
Some of the just make sure you're doing whatever. Some people are against spraying, but you're doing whatever you need to do to make sure you're not getting a handful of spiders when you're going in there to pull. Trust me, I've pulled wood off the wood pile in a half sober state, and it's never good if you get a handful of something.
Yeah, you say that now, and my wife will never go get wood. I'll be the one to get in at all times.
Yeah, Jay, can you go get some wood? I think we're running
some more wood. We're
running low. My oldest is kind of a pyro, and he builds the fire. So I literally, when he's over here, he just keeps the thing stocked, and so I never have to kind of worry about that. Kind of worry about that piece. So,
well, that's a good point too. With being the wood instead of the propane, how are you lighting them?
Yeah, so I've gone to fire starter products, whatever those. You can get them at Menards, or you can get them at any of the big box stores, and they're just, and you can buy these from people. They're just, whatever, like wood chips that are put together with some kind of flammable product. You put it in the middle, just light it and go. Starting a fire with paper is the dirtiest. I mean, you can do it, but the paper just floats all over the place. And I just find getting a fire starter, you can buy them, they're available commercially as well. It's just a little cleaner. Yeah. My neighbor brought me some lemongrass from she had planted last year. and it had over the winter, dries out. She cut it at the stock, rolled it up for me, and then gave it to me. She gave me 3 of these bundles. She goes, "This is really good fire starter." I was like, "Thanks.
Thank you.
This is awesome. This is awesome." I said, "Does it smell good?" She goes, "No, it just smells like fire." But you can. I'd recommend getting some kind of fire starter from a wood product or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I like that idea.
Yeah.
I mean, me not knowing anything, I'd be out there with gas pouring it on there. That should.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that for sure. When I was younger, I did that one time, and I thought the embers were all out, and I poured gas. They weren't all out. Whoosh! I just about burned the house down. So it was not not very smart. Well, Jay, I think that's a quick hour and some change, but I think we've got you all set on your fire pit and some gadgets to kind of go along. And I hear you have a new guitar. Maybe you'll be playing out there by the fire
pit. I will
pit,
not, but my daughter will.
Did you win a new guitar?
My daughter did. We went to a convention a couple weeks ago, a real large convention, and in the background there's a guitar. It's a Stratocaster sitting on that chair. So it's nice. It's really nice. And she won it. She scanned a QR code, one of like hundreds of thousands of people, and she was insisting that she was going to win, and she did. I don't know how she does it, but she did it.
So you have a guitar.
Literally, I mean,
you're in the right
she
part
got
of
a
the
text message saying, "You won." And then I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And then it says, "What's your address?" And I'm like, I was hesitant, but I gave the address, and next thing you know, boom, here's your guitar.
That's cool.
So, but it's a beautiful Stratocaster. I mean, it's nice. It's right-handed. I play left-handed, so it's not going to do me any good. But
what are you going to do with it?
She's going to play it.
Okay.
What's sad is we just bought her a Stratocaster, the identical one, but it's teal green. That's her favorite color, teal green, blue. But she's got that, and that's what she's playing. And I didn't know these were real things, but she's going to the School of Rock. You know, the movie with
Jack Black.
Jack Black.
Yeah.
They actually have those, and there's one here in Northern Kentucky, and she's going to go to it. And she went down and got her first free lesson. And what they do is they give you one lesson a week and then 2 band practices.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. See a bunch of kids in there playing rock songs and stuff. And
well, that's cool.
And her favorite band is Arctic Monkeys. So
I never heard of them.
Yeah, I never heard of them either, but they're a pop rockish type band, and they're not that bad. For her to pick that as her band, I can get with that because it's hard enough for me. I'm into hard rock music.
How old is she?
She's 13.
Okay.
Just turned 13.
Yeah, perfect age. Yeah, perfect age for that. Well, that's cool.
She plays saxophone now. One of my connections in the music industry sells instruments, and I asked him if he could find us a saxophone. He sent one over to us, and so we got it a really good deal, and she's been playing saxophone for the past couple of years. And I didn't realize this, but when she went to take her guitar lesson, they came out to me and told me how impressed they were because she could already read music.
Yep.
I never even thought about that, but she was reading music, and she was playing Arctic Monkeys on her first lesson. So good for her.
Well, you never know. You might be visiting her in Nashville at some point in time, and it's a tough town. It's a tough town for music.
I worked there for 20 years, and it is tough. And what's funny is they always say, "Oh, you're an overnight success." It's like, no, I've been playing the same bar for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with some of the best in the industry in Nashville, and she's lucky now, and she doesn't realize she's lucky because she thinks that just everybody knows this, right? Everybody's dad is friends with this person.
Right.
But if I do get lucky enough to have somebody on the phone or on a Zoom call or something like this, she can ask questions, and she gets these little tips and tricks from all these people.
Yeah, nice. Well, you just gotta work the angles that you have available to you, right? So we'll see how. Well, Jay, I will expect you're in the regular rotation, so I will expect in the fall when I have you back on, we need to see some fire pit pictures
Yes.
And
I will come back with photos, and I will explain what technology was put into it.
Yeah.
Because until you told me that, Jim, I never thought of putting technology into my fire pit.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people
So,
don't. There's
hey.
lots of good stuff. Yeah. Lots of good stuff to get it done. And you can overdo it too, but why not? I mean, everything that can be done should be overdone. So
I will overdo it. I will because I'm that guy.
yeah.
But and Jim,
Yeah.
I know we're wrapping up, but I'll make this quick.
No worries.
I know you're a monitor guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've done it again. I've added another monitor to my system.
Yes. Yes. So how many do you have?
I have 4 currently.
Nice.
2 in front of me and 1 above me is the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I was using just 1 in the TV because the 2 were interfering with the audio monitors.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a double mount that is screwed in and fixed to my desk now.
Mm-hmm. For the monitors. Double mount for the monitors.
For the monitors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what that has done is that's relieved the desk space that was being taken up by because the monitor stands were big.
Yeah. Yeah. They're big. Yeah.
So by fixing this mount to the desk, and I have 2 movable arms, like scissor arms, kind of like our mic stands. So it allows me to put the monitors back.
Yeah.
Which now takes them out of my audio field. And when I'm mixing music, I can fold the monitors in, and I can even dip them down out of the way completely.
Yeah.
But what it has done that I'm finding workarounds for now is I used to have, because I had only the 1 monitor in front of me, I had the camera above the monitor so I could look at the camera, see you, everything's fine.
Right. Right.
But now the camera's in between the 2 monitors.
Right.
So if I'm looking at you, I'm kind of looking like this.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
So what I did was I bought a camera mount because I had no way of putting it on a monitor anymore.
Right. Right.
So I bought a camera mount that, again, screws onto the desk. It's just a pole sticking up.
Yep.
You can put any camera you want. Mirrorless.
Fixed pole, or is it one of those flexible ones that you can kind of move around?
It's fixed in the fact that it's only straight.
Okay. Okay.
But it's movable and it goes up like a mic stand would do. And it swivels side to side.
Got it.
It doesn't swivel forward and back.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
So that's what I have going on. But I didn't think of the fact that now I'm looking off. If I look at a screen, my head is not straight on anymore.
Yeah, it's with, and I catch myself doing this all the time. You know, I got chat over here, and so when I'm doing Saturday morning Ask the Podcast Coach with Dave, and I'm looking over here. It's very obvious. I mean, you can't get it all in one space. You can't be looking at the camera all the time,
No,
Jay.
I mean, for me to see the chat tonight, normally when it's my show, I have the windows on my left monitor. So that way my chat is right next to the camera.
Right.
Tonight, because you're on the left side and I want to be able to see you, I moved you to the other screen. So you're on the right screen.
Right.
But then now that puts the chat on the far right. So for me to read the chat, I'm way over here.
Yep.
So
it is a problem. You know, it's a give and take. Yeah. It is a problem with having that much real estate to do, things with. And it's surprising, 34-inch ultra wide here, but the chat is in the middle. I'm looking off screen, and it's just, it is what it is, right? I mean, you're making some choices. You can't look at the screen all the time.
To me, that hasn't bothered me. Like when I do my show, I'm more concerned about what the audio is going to be like.
Right.
So I'm not worried about it. But the only problem with that is if you're my guest, I want to look at you when we're talking.
Yeah.
So that's the hard part. Because if I'm looking at you, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
well,
I also put the lights on a mount. So now I've got like 4 mounting systems on my desk. It's freed up all the space.
Yeah, no, it's kind of nice to get that. And I actually put my speakers, I did the same thing, except I put the speakers just under, I lifted the monitors high enough that I could bring my bookshelf. Is that what they call them? Speakers. I could put them right underneath the monitors. And so they're unobstructed. and I have one right in front of me and one off to the right. I'm not doing anything that requires it to be exactly stereo for whatever I'm doing, but I've got one facing directly at me, and then I got one coming from the right, and it works perfectly. Actually, for this setting, I never have the speakers because I'm using earbuds,
Right.
so it doesn't matter. The speakers are more optimized for the YouTube and for the the TV and the YouTube that I run through it as well. So lots of good options. I like it, Jay. I'm proud of you for buying another monitor. Nice job.
Well, I used to have the 2 monitors, so I had the monitor here. Matter of fact, I have 3 of them. I'm letting my wife use the other one. So, but I have the audio monitors, which are perfectly laser beamed out and all that stuff. So it sounds really good. Yeah. I don't want to obstruct them. But now by getting everything off the desk, I've got the mixing console here in front of me, which is nice rather than having that off to a side.
Yeah, no, it is. It's getting that stuff kind of optimized for your own workflow. There's no perfect workflow except the one that works for you, right?
That's exactly the point.
Yeah, getting that all. I mean, I'd love to have. I've got a Surface Pro and another monitor here that just runs my weather station, and I like to watch the weather all the time. And most people are like,
guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I am a weather nerd, and most people are like, seriously? I'm like, that's what makes me feel good. I like to know what's coming up. I like to know when it's going to be a nice evening and I can enjoy a cigar and some whiskey on the deck. That stuff's important to me. So when you're speaking of that, our friends in Dallas are getting leveled right now with a thunderstorm. Holy moly. Sorry about that, Dallas friends. Yeah, yikes.
So when you're doing your shows and you have your chat windows and stuff, are you using the same computer to do all of your monitors, or do you run anything on a separate computer?
No, for the show, it comes all off the Mac. Yeah,
because I have one single laptop off to my side too.
Yeah, you could do that.
I used to use it for LinkedIn because LinkedIn's comments don't come up they do now. But Facebook doesn't come up in StreamYard.
Right.
Some of Facebook does. There's 3. You got Facebook page, group, and whatever the other one is. But yeah, so there's all sorts of workarounds, but I end up with 50 screens.
Yeah. It can be. I like it that way. Like I said, I try to optimize for sound as opposed to video, but it is what it is, right?
Well, that's exactly what I do because it's going to be a podcast at some way, an audio podcast.
Right. I don't get enough video. I don't get enough video views for it to matter, just to be honest. But for this kind of stuff, for the 5 or 12 or whatever we get on a live show, I hope. I can't look right. I mean, my camera is right above me right here. And so whether I'm looking at you or looking at me, it's hard to tell the difference because this is the advantage. I have these really kind of squinty eyes. They're hard to see. So like, you don't even know what I'm looking at anyways. I could be sleeping most of the time and you'd never know. But
we have time for one more quick.
Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Our show last night, we were talking about advertising and talking about, putting videos up on YouTube. And most of the time videos aren't getting much play on YouTube, especially when we do our streams.
Right.
For whatever reason, it's always low numbers.
Right.
However, I posted a video right before the show last night. I just did a clip of one of our episodes. So one of the interviews I did was a woman named Gina Grad. She's used to be the news person for Adam Carolla. And I was talking to her, and I just made a 2.5, maybe 3-minute clip, put it on YouTube, and normally 40 views, something like that. It had just under 2,000 right before the show.
Wow.
No rhyme or reason. Have no idea why. It just, boom, there it is. And then I've got others that I put up, and I get 40 views.
Mm-hmm.
So,
was it a reel on YouTube?
No, I've been using the YouTube Shorts as well.
Shorts, that's the right term. Yeah, Shorts.
Experimenting with it, and I've probably maybe have 20, 25 of them posted at this point. Just under a minute long clips, usually 30-second clips. Yeah. And those, again, no rhyme, no reason.
Yeah.
most of them are like 1, 5, 30, 40 views.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I've got a few of them up there, they're getting like 200. But I've had 2 videos do about 1,500, and I've got one of them that did 7,000. So 3 of them got really good views. The rest of them, 30, 40.
Yeah.
So
I do
not understand why.
Nah, it's a weird system. It's a weird system. I wish I could take advantage of it more. I don't. For most of the folks that listen to this show, they don't care. We're doing some different things at Gallup where it does matter, and so we're getting some different results there. But yeah, no, it's certainly available out there, and it's interesting. I don't mess with it as much as I probably should.
Well, we teach the musicians how to market themselves.
Yeah.
And one of the things that everyone wants is social media. And so I want to experiment and find things that truly work.
Yeah.
And so we experiment with everything, the thumbnails, we experiment with the titles, we experiment with everything. But there was no rhyme or reason. There was nothing different from yesterday's video than things we've done in the past. And right out of the gate, it got a large number of views.
Mm-hmm.
And it stalled again. I mean, I don't think it's gone past 2,500 views.
Right.
But
yeah, well, I think comedy is perfect for that, for those kinds of, stand up, the reels or the shorts that I watch. The comedy ones are the best. I think that's
I love it.
Yeah, that's a good.
I get introduced. I mean, I'm a big comedy fan, and I've done stand up quite a bit, so I enjoy it. That's part of what I like to do.
Yeah.
But I've come across some comedians that I've never heard of that are just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's good exposure, right? So, well, Jay, hang tight for me 1 second. Let me wrap this thing up. We'll do a smidgen of post show. A couple reminders on the way. Well, 1, Jay, thanks for coming out. 2, it's always great to have you. If you want to contact the show, send me an email, jim@theaverageguy.tv. You can leave a message if you want to do that. HomeGadgetGeeks.com. There's a little blue button down there. Nobody uses it, so I don't know why I keep saying it, but. But I will say, though, the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners, get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust, and that's Christian. You can get more information, maplegrovepartners.com, and he's setting up just about any kind of hosting you can imagine, and he's doing a bang-up job of doing it. Plans start as little as $10 a month, so give it a try. And then one more reminder, not one more, but here at the end of the show, if you haven't tried HelloFresh yet, or if you want to try it again, well, I shouldn't say try it again. If you haven't tried it yet, they're giving you $110 right now off of plans, $40 off the first month alone. So if you want to give it a try, it has revolutionized the way I cook. We just eat a whole lot better with it. Check it out, theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at the Average Guy. .tv//live, and love to have you a part of it. If you're listening to the audio and you've never come out for a live show, why not come out and join us Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Love to have you a part of at least in the chat room as well. Next week, Marv B is back. Marv, he's been on the show before. He's always a ton of fun. Marv B's coming back, and I'm sure we'll have some networking stuff and some enterprise stuff. And Marv's just a good time. So come back next week. Make sure you join us live. For everyone listening live, Alex, Joe, Ken, Brian, and Tony, who is out there, thanks for coming out. With that, we'll say goodbye.